All right,
Hello.
folks. Welcome to one of our impromptu discussion videos. We're going to have a little talk, even though initially we weren't going to, but it's gotten so stupid. We decided to have a little talk about the ridiculousness surrounding the Trench Crusade miniatures game. Now, with the intro handled, such as it is, I'm going to let my brother get into some of the meat and potatoes of this issue.
Hey, everybody. I'm Mr. Nobody. You might know me from Mr. Nobody Presents or from the various streams we've had on the channel. I'm going to talk briefly, give you a quick idea of what Trench Crusade is. Trench Crusade was a somewhat like World War One-ish analog, where the devil had actually managed to break the veil and had been starting to conquer the world, and where literally God and the Catholic Church, amongst some others, were fighting him back. It's a was going to be a skirmish game. I believe they planned on doing a full war game, but that might or might not be there. And it was created by Mike Francina, a fairly prominent ex Games Workshop designer. Um, at the end of the day, it was a fairly grim, a very, very grim setting with some fairly evocative art, but this is where we enter the thing. Originally, I had planned on my channel doing a fairly big series diving into Trench Crusade, talking about its lore,
Yeah.
talking about the future of the game, who designed
Originally,
it.
we kind of thought this concept was pretty damn interesting, and it'd be interesting to see something, so a classic good versus evil thing kind of play out on tabletop.
I was going to jump into it as a content creator and talk about it in fairly vast depth, but recently we had a bit of a kerfluffle when 21 or 20 no 28 magazine, a very very out there leftist magazine, started kind of basically throwing people out for what they some people referred to as vibes. Effectively, they were stalking people to their Twitter profiles, finding out their political leanings, found out it wasn't of a leftward direction, and then kicked them. And a great purge that led to the entire Discord for that to be closed. And by reading the new terms of the official Trench Crusade, um, it sounds like it's only going to be worse. It's all politics are not good, or they are verboten, except for a certain direction, and
And
you'll
let
probably take a
me let
guess.
me touch on that. We, by the way, um, care of he who shall not be named by GW fanboys. Um, Care of Arch found out about some of the details of this, and that is the fact that their claim in their description is that gender beliefs and ideologies are not to be considered politics. This is to include all LGBTQ plus whatever the hell they've added to it recently,
Up, down, A,
topics.
B, A, B.
Yeah, topics and discussions and whatnot. They're like gender ideology is not considered political and therefore is allowed. Now, what we're into a problem with this is if you've looked around everywhere, especially with the personal is political movement, is that is completely ass backwards and obviously biased.
It's repressive tolerance, effectively. The other element of it that I had noticed from their terms and agreements to join their Discord is that previously they said they welcomed all like kit bashes and things like that, and they weren't going to go after people for making their own models to
Mm-hmm.
represent things. To let's just say one that is worded in such a way that sounds like they're going to become GW style litigious. And I don't think they're going to get to the point of being as successful or successful enough to be litigious. In my
Hmm.
humble opinion,
It's
I
possible.
believe they killed something that could have been very, very popular in its cradle. And that's where we kind of enter into this thing. I had gotten interested in it because I love Weird War, and this was very Weird War. Plus, it took some of the grimdark aesthetic that was very common.
It's also been becoming less and less prevalent in the setting that actually coined the phrase.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, that's interesting. I loved Mordheim, and have a designer that was involved in Mordheim in it was awesome. So I had been looking at it for about a year, and I had planned on doing several videos going into it, talking about the setting itself, the factions, then talking about the rules as they got more and more defined. Then hopefully eventually having some stuff talking about miniatures, maybe painting some, a whole thing. And I immediately said no, because when it came down to it, I do not like the user hostile approach, which this is what this is.
Unfortunately, it's a user hostile approach on multiple levels, because we're not just dealing with the user hostile,
Design.
production. We're also dealing with the user hostile social, level things, like the freaking community.
It hates the people who would buy it, and it loves the people who don't buy it, which is a stupid way for a company to conduct itself.
Now, is this where you came to the decision when we were talking before, where you just decided you didn't want to support this in any way, or was there another specific point?
The main thing that set me off on the no, I won't support it is I have very particular standards when it comes to if I will cover something in detail, and it always comes down to how they treat the customer. I was originally going to excuse the actions of 21 or 28 and go, well, that's not Trench Crusade itself. But when Trench Crusade came out and they said effectively, they're friends of ours, and if you got banned, we believe it was for a good reason. And then when they came out...
So basically they weren't supporting any of the customers who were being wronged. They were siding with this magazine.
So I had decided at that point I wasn't going to do it because they were being hostile to customers, and I don't accept that and I don't support it. Then on top of it, when we got the new agreement for their official Discord and the fact that they are obviously loading it to one side, I was like, this thing deserves to fail. It does not deserve.
And it's such a strange
anything.
move to claim, that
you are the victim while victimizing.
That's not even what I'm getting at. It's just a strange exercise to go, well, no politics are allowed, but this thing that is at like the epicenter of most recent political debates is not considered political. Well, and this is considering that a lot of the people who support the LGBTQ stuff absolutely consider it to be a political measure,
it's
a matter.
It's a definite movement, but I would also say it's clear hostility. If you say no politics, I would have been 100% behind it, but the problem is it's the same kind of Gestapo thing where they're like, no politics, but our politics. And
it really does come across that way.
I'm not going to support someone that's obviously malicious towards people.
And that is considering that, again, care of Arch, we've seen the rules for this Discord. We've seen the wording of it. We've seen
public.
Literally, it's right there, and he showed it on a video where it's like, yeah, you can talk about LGBTQ gender ideology stuff, but anything else remotely political will be banned, and you'll be probably put on suspension.
If it's left-wing politics, it's acceptable. If it's anything, even like a neutral saying of, I don't think taxes should be that high, and that's not even a left or right position, they'll throw you out because vibes. But that's the thing, is as soon as I saw that cemented any chance I was going to give them. And it cemented the chance when I saw the original
If by cement
reply.
you meant buried in a foundation.
It added 6 more feet of concrete on top, is what I'm saying. So that's one big problem. And it's like, okay, it deserves to fail. And here's the thing. Welcome to the internet, boyos. Everything lives forever. And when your little system dies and you can't make money off it and you've moved on, the people who are interested will just simply pick it up and make it for free on the internet.
And here's the problem, too, in that regard.
So I don't need to pay you a damn dime.
Yeah. So here's the problem, too, in that regard. You might have made an interesting system, But all you've done now by alienating a bunch of people is guarantee that somebody who runs 3D printing is going to sell a bunch of World War One themed miniatures, which already exist, by the way. There's already plenty of World War One style Weird War miniatures that people make. That you could just use the setting premise and run a completely different system, and you'd be violating nothing.
Yeah. So you get rid of all the goodwill and you destroy it. And we're not even talking the merits of the system at this point,
No.
or the setting.
Because what's the point when they're already so hostile to everybody?
When it comes down to it, why support a company that's going to be hostile to me and it hates me, and it's going to push all of this stuff that just keeps destroying and devaluing the system itself and the setting?
Yeah.
So why waste my breath on that when I can talk about how you shouldn't pay them a damn dime? And don't pay them a damn dime. The internet exists. You can find alternatives, and they don't.
And we're not even being like
business.
pro piracy or nothing. I don't believe in theft. I'm sorry, I just don't. So I've never been the sail the high seas guy. But there's plenty of other things out there that you can make your own system with, or modify an existing system and just use World War One, statted stuff. And you're there. You don't need to deal with this kind of crap where you're going to potentially be singled out for not believing the exact same thing as their community managers do.
You can't copyright World War One or Two.
And
I'm sorry, and you can't copyright rules. You can try all day, but by U.S. law, you're not actually capable of doing it.
No, you're not.
You can make a game that has Monopoly's rules. You just can't use all the iconography of it.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean the company won't try to be litigious to you, but my main thing is that their first real public step is to be hostile, dishonest, and malicious towards those they don't agree with. And
it's not a good look, and the problem is they started with a bad look, and then they just got even worse.
And
because
they keep making it worse.
This was already a PR misstep on the other Discord server when they were singling people out and kicking people and getting called out rightfully for it. But then rather than going somewhere, taking a new start where they were away from these, potential bad actors at this magazine, they opened their own official Discord and then proceed to crack down even harder, except with the additional fucking issue of an obvious double standard.
I'm going to snake the same comments I have in several of my own videos. If you watch any of my hobby stuff,
Yeah.
claim things for yourself. You don't need to pay them a dime for this. You can go buy oddly or similarly themed models on the internet. You can use rules that you might not have even purchased. Doesn't mean that you might not have access to some rules. You don't have to do it. You don't have to give them a dime.
No.
Claim the setting for yourself, and they can complain about it all they damn well wish, because the activists and the bad actors in this company will run out of money. And you might as well enjoy it. So, like I said with like Warhammer 40K, don't let them bully you out. Just refuse to accept what you're given.
If you dig this idea, then make something of it yourself for yourself. You ain't got to play their fucking rules. You ain't got to play their game. If you like the idea, use it for yourself. Just don't buy their system.
There is plenty of things out in that world. And hey, I'm going to put it this way. There was a time in which I remember some guys passed around some photocopied copies of the rules. Didn't charge a damn thing for it. Just so people had something to reference when playing Warhammer. And, sometimes stuff happens like that. I'm not suggesting that you do it, but I'm suggesting that you go, no, you can't bully me out of these things. I'm going to play and like what I want, and you can claim all day it's this or that, but I'm not playing your rules.
Yeah, exactly.
So, that's the thing, and I think the real centerpiece of this, and I'll try to put a kind of a capstone on this whole thing, is it has nothing to do with the personal beliefs of an individual. It has everything to do with the lack of respect.
It's the dishonesty of forcing those beliefs on someone else who's not interested. That is wrong, no matter who you are.
the lack of respect and the maliciousness that this was done. The simple fact that they didn't have to take a side and they did it so quickly, they deserved their failure, and they deserved to see the thing that they thought was going to be a splinter in the eye of the chuds turned around and put in front of them and be forced to eat that crow. So, keep on gaming. Thanks for joining us. And don't accept hostile design from companies.
And that's going to be it for us for today, folks. Hopefully you enjoyed this little opinion piece, and we'll catch you in the next video. See you later.
Bye-bye.